talk about that over the course of this conference, because what I know is that the work world is changing, and our thoughts about how we transfer our knowledge to young people needs to move in a different direction. Our young people have seen an incredible expression of their value this year through what's happening politically. We can look at almost every nation in the country, and it has expressed its value, and I would dare to say in some negative ways, on the value that our young people have in this nation. And so when I talk to young people and we talk to them about working hard, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, and then you'll get your just rewards, they're telling me that that's not working for them, that they pulled up those bootstraps, and what happened is the straps began to break. And so we need to prepare our students and all of you in this audience to be able to manage in a new world of work. We have technology that's changing how we work. We have young people who want differences in the workplace, and we have to be able to match what those needs are. Because what I know is that people rise to the expectations that they set for them. And so we need to continue to set the expectations higher so that the people in this room can meet those expectations. We have a panel of people here who have thoughts about, how their careers have gone in the transportation industry. They also are going to share with us, though, their thoughts about how they've made it and what you can do to make it in this new world of work. But what I will say is that we all need to think about the skill sets that we need in order to make it happen. Several of us, and I'll dare to say, weren't prepared to speak this morning, but because of our flexibility and resiliency, we're able to, as I keep saying to this group, tap dance in the moment. And so those are the competencies and skill sets, just some of those, and those are valuable skill sets that you can have, because as young people, you'll be seeing a lot of ambiguity, a lot of change in the workplace. Nothing is set. And if you're able to manage that ambiguity with grace and style and still be able to lead with dignity and integrity, then you'll be able to make it in any industry that's out there. And so part of our goal is, again, to raise excellent leaders that can manage in any situation. And we have a panel of people here who are going to just talk to you a bit about how they've done it. And throughout this conference, we'll continue to talk to you about how you can do it as well. There is no one set way to peel a banana. However, we will get that banana peeled, and we'll make sure that we all are able to rise to the success that I know we can. So with given that, I just want to turn to the panel, and I keep talking about the new world of work and the new skill sets that it takes and the competencies it takes to be able to make it in the world of work. And we'll talk about that, but I think we want to start off with Mr. James Cole, who will give us his thoughts and perspectives about the transportation industry and education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's great to be here with you today at the Day at Harvard. We can't say it enough, but I'd like to say again, thank you to Dr. Ogletree for opening his house to us, and even more importantly, for making us feel like it's our house as well. Today's events combine two of my passions, transportation and education. In 2011, President Obama appointed me to be the Deputy GC at the Department of Transportation. And one of my responsibilities was to manage the DBE program at the Department of Transportation. And the DBE program, for those of you who don't know, was created to provide minority and women-owned businesses with the opportunity to compete for funding that was given out by the Department of Transportation. And just to keep that in perspective, in a recent year, over $4.4 billion was awarded to women and minority-owned businesses. So it's a huge program, very important. I was invited to speak at Comto's 2013 conference, which was back in Jacksonville, Florida, where I met many of you and many of the friendly faces. And I showed up pretty excited about myself. I was going to kind of start off the way I just started off with you guys. It's $4.4 billion, and they're going to really like me. And I got grilled at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I got a myriad of questions about, well, why can't this be better? And why is the net worth formed like this? And it's too hard to do that. And so I took copious notes and went back to the Department of Transportation, and we made a number of changes to the DBE program, and it's better off in part because of the hard work of Comto. So from that conference on forward, I've been a major fan of Comto and all the great work that you do. Another of my passions is education, which is why when I received the invitation to come speak today about a couple of weeks ago from the Colonel, I said, well, you know, I've got a busy summer schedule, we've got weekend events, and he said, no, you've got to come. And he's kind of persuasive, as you guys know. And so here I am today. Horace Mann famously stated in 1848 that, and I quote, education then, beyond all other devices of human origin, is a great equalizer of the conditions of men, the balance wheel of the social machinery. 150 years later, man is still very much correct today. Education is the great equalizer. I was excited when the president appointed me to be the general counsel at the Department of Education because of the incredible impact the department has had on my life personally and the incredible impact it can have on millions of lives of children in the future. I attended Dunbar Vocational High School on the south side of Chicago, which was known as a dropout factory because less than 50% of us actually graduated from high school. But I was successful because of a number of the programs that the Department of Education funds and sponsors. I participated in after-school programs funded by the department, like Outward Bound. I was speaking with a gentleman just today about Outward Bound, and I've met a young lady who was very much a part of getting those programs put into place. I also took advanced placement courses, which helped prepare me for college, had the benefit of some great teachers. We talk a lot about our students is very important, but it's also important that programs that support our teachers are as important as the programs that support our children. My reliance on programs at the Department of Education continued after high school. I had Pell Grants and Stafford loans and work-study programs. Many of you will have those same opportunities, I'm hoping. Without such programs, I would not have been able to complete college. Education is the great equalizer. After college, I graduated from law school, then joined a law firm where I became the first African-American partner. Many of us from underprivileged backgrounds have succeeded in our careers and lives against all odds, but so much more needs to be done today. And the Department of Education is working across all levels. We're working at preschool, where it's most important for the kids who need the most help. We're working in secondary and elementary education, and we're working to make college more affordable, to make it more transparent. We're working hard in all of those areas, but we've got not much time left, so it's important that we work harder today than ever before. We're reauthorizing the most important education law in the land right now. The House just passed a very conservative bill, and we're working in the Senate to have a more reasonable bill passed so that we can hopefully have a reasonable education law in the future. Education is the great equalizer. Coming from a poor background, I often pinched myself as I moved through life, in large part because of education. I've negotiated billion-dollar deals as far away as Japan. I've met with the Queen of England. They had to teach me how to bow and not to say too much. I get to walk into the West Wing frequently to help address some of the pressing issues that are facing the nation today. But more importantly, I get to do things like I get to do today, which is to interact with you guys, to meet with students and teachers and principals and administrators all across this country, and that really is the highlight of my job and what it is that I do. To those of you in high school, and I think there are a few of you in the audience, a number of you went off to do the tour of Harvard today. To compete in today's globally competitive job market, you need formal training after high school. I highly recommend a 4-year degree, but some form of certificate or 2-year degree in today's market is absolutely critical. To those of you in college, do not allow anyone or anything to keep you from completing your college degree. You've been accepted into college, and that's a great accomplishment. But as the First Lady says, it's not enough to simply start college. You have to graduate from college. My hope is that you will complete a certificate or a degree, have a career that you find interesting and fulfilling, and that you live a life that you want to live. And to the executives and officials in the room today, I hope that you will find time in your busy schedules to be mentors to the young women and men who will one day run our corporations, our cities, our states, and the country. Support them and encourage them to excel in everything they do. They need us, and we need them. Thank you for allowing me to share with you, and I'm looking forward to participating with the panel and hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
So as you've seen on your agenda, this is a workshop, and a workshop means that it's interactive. So we will hear from our panel, but we especially would like to hear from you and the questions that you might want to ask this group. It's a unique opportunity to really ask any question that you'd like to. I'd like to go down the row and just give each of you about 3 minutes to one is we want to talk about this thought of high potential talent and how you identify talent in organizations. Each of these people here would consider themselves an emerging leader, but we know that that really does have a unique definition, and high potential really has a unique definition. So I wanted you to address the thought of high potential talent, what that means, what it takes to be high potential talent, maybe any of the skills and competencies that it might take to be successful in that arena, and also any additional information you have about your particular company or your particular pathway that might be impactful to the group that's here. So Terry, if I can give you, and I'll give each of you about 3 minutes, and we can come back and ask additional questions.
So I am living proof that Colonel Page can do things on a moment's notice. Before this get-together, he told me, get up there and sit down, we need you on the panel. So, but it's very good to be here. I'm actually on this session following this as well. Relative to high potential talent, I am by the way, I should mention that I'm the leader of our transportation organization globally. And I work with a lot of people across the world. And we have a lot of incoming talent, and we have a lot of talent within our organization, but I would say that the most important thing that you can do to establish high potential opportunities is show passion. You got to have passion about what you do, what you want to do, being a bigger part of something that's greater than yourself. I think that for high potential opportunities, we're looking for leadership, and leadership is different than management.
Yes.
Leadership is about transformation. It's not about doing things right, but it's doing the right thing. And I think that high potential talent means you're more than willing to work with people. That's what our industry is. Transportation is the fabric of our society, and it brings people together, and it brings opportunities to all of us. But at the end of the day, it's about people connecting with people. And I can't overestimate how important it is that you're able to work together with one another, with people of diverse backgrounds. And one of the best things you can do in order to be able to work with one another, one of the key things that a leader must have is the willingness to listen. We can all talk about our different experiences, but first you've got to listen, and listen to people, listen to what they're interested in. Be passionate about what you're doing. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, look to do something else. But I would say passion, the ability to listen. You've got to have, a background in what you're doing. Technical competency is important. That will, build your reputation. But be able to listen, be able to work with people, and be able to do the right thing in addition to doing things right.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara?
Good.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Hi, everybody. Glad you're here at Harvard. It's a treat for me to be here as well. I am Barbara Gannon. I have been paying attention to the development of transportation leaders for a lot of years, and I got to begin my career in transportation because I was an out-of-work teacher. I had no job, And there was a wonderful program, a job trainings program called CETA, C-E-T-A, Comprehensive Education and Training Act. And I was hired in a rural area of Pennsylvania to build a 5-county transportation system. I was an out-of-work teacher, and I got to learn about transportation. I'm not the only person in this room or even in this industry who had no idea that they would end up in transportation. And if you use that as your very first question to anyone you meet over the next 4 days, what is it that you learn? How did you come to transportation? You will hear amazing stories. So I hope you will enjoy doing that. I guess to answer the question, it's always important to answer the question, my husband tells me. I will say that please be curious. And when I say be curious not only about ideas, and be interested in things, but be curious and interested in people. You will have fabulous conversations over the next 4 days, and I always have this standard about conversations. I enjoy every single one, and I try to really be engaged in it, but after you will walk away from this 4 days and you will say, there are 3 conversations that really stayed with me. Those are very important conversations, so think about that.
Thank you. Mr. Ford.
Persist?
Persist?
No, that's it.
Okay, good.
Floor is yours.
How are you guys today? Good, good. I like more interaction, so as the young people saw yesterday, my style. My name is Antoine Ford, President and CEO of Enlighten Incorporated, located in Washington, D.C., doing business around the country. One of the things that I believe in is when we answer that question in terms of what am I looking for in folks in leadership position. And there's a couple characteristics. I'm going to repeat something I told the young people yesterday. I need persistence. I need people not to give up when they reach their first obstacle, because you're going to hit it really fast. So I need somebody to understand that that obstacle is just I call it a testimony for later, and tell people what I got over. And we got to make sure we do that. I want people to understand that critical thinking is probably that, to your point, you mentioned something earlier about solving problems. My customers do not pay Enlighten to tell them what they already know. They pay us to solve their problems. They pay us to make sure that we get through their problems, because if they could just think their way through it, why do they need to pay me? And so realistically, I need people that can critically think through how to make things better, faster, cheaper, more effective, so that we are going to be safer in transportation, in defense, in the infrastructure of this country. So am I looking for young people? I need you guys to think beyond. Now, we have that concept of thinking out of the box. Everyone's doing that. I want you to make sure you start off where everyone else is finished. This quote that somebody said is, now that we've exhausted all the possibilities, let's get started. And if you really are looking at where you're trying to go, you really need to focus on that aspect of it, regardless of the discipline that you're in. And then the last area, I think you mentioned it with passion, and I told the folks yesterday, if you do anything and you're not doing it with passion, just go home. Don't do it, don't start, because if you're not passionate about it, you're going to reach an obstacle that you aren't going to be able to overcome, because there's going to be somebody telling you you can't do it. There's going to be, and this is for all of us, right? There's going to be somebody saying, oh, that's hard. And so you have to get to a point where you recognize my passion, that thing that it drives me inside, is going to say, no matter what, I got to get up the next day and try again. And then find a mentor. I think Colonel Page and I, he was someone that I met when I first started the company, and somebody that I'm loyal to a fault. If somebody says something to Colonel Page, I'm ready to fight. And I just ask God to forgive me right after it. I go to service tomorrow. But this is somebody who has opened doors for me, and that we have helped young people. And we see somebody like Howard, who's here, who's also helping young people. And I told them yesterday, and I will continue to say this, if I will help anyone, but there's one requirement: you got to help somebody else. And that is a requirement that I have. So.
Well, everybody says, I could just say ditto, 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 okay? So I'm going to give just some off the high potential, okay? So the first thing I want to do is I would like everyone that wants to aspire to and ultimately get to the C-suite, okay? But I will come back and I will say this, is that a professional is the person who, professionals are at every single level, every single position that we have in every one of these organizations, the people are professionals, okay? And so you can be high potential and should be aspiring to be high potential at whatever it is that you are doing, okay? And so it's not just I got to be the CEO in order for me to be, I won't have made it if I don't get to be the CEO or in the C-suite, okay? Try to bring that, your A game all the time at what you're doing, okay? Now, just from a practical standpoint, when I see people walking at me, I always laugh and I say, I see people in 3 dimensions. I see them in terms of what their current performance is, I see them in terms of their readiness, and I see them in terms of their potential. And I think that for those who have the opportunity to help to shape some of these, your futures, if you will, but you gotta have an active involvement in it. This ain't spectator sport. Is really trying to think about, when you look at people in those 3 slices, well, now what does it wind up taking? What are the experiences and the exposures? What are the things that it winds up taking in order for you, and you got to be actively involved in it, to get to the next? What do you need to put the check mark on? What are the next experiences and exposures? And that's why I say that one of the things, emphasizing something that's been said earlier today, a lot, is that there is this whole thing of giving back, but understanding that there is a difference between mentoring, coaching, and sponsoring. Mm-hmm. And they are all about being role models, but I say my generation got to know how to stand to the side, okay, because mentoring is one thing, coaching is another thing, and sponsoring is something else, and they're all along those dimensions, and that in order for people to be able to realize their potential, we have to be prepared, those of us who can help that, to step to the side to be able to make the place at the table, because there's certain things that you can only get as a function of experience, okay? And so that, so I think those would be, and having and being values-centered. Mm-hmm. Being values-centered, okay? You can never, that's around leadership. You can't, if you don't have your integrity, and if anything's up for sale, then I'm just telling you, you just can't be part of the program, okay? And that is about giving back and being about something more than just yourself and your own personal career. And that's not taking anything away from that. But boy, when I see folks that are giving back in a community and doing it can be the smallest of ways, but they're very, very sincere and genuine, and you can just see it, that jumps out at me on resumes and when I'm talking to them. And you do that by what you do, not by what you say. My daddy used to say, I can tell you, I can show you better than I can tell you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm just honored to be on this panel because I took a lot of notes and everyone said everything on my list. So I'll keep it brief and use kind of a life experience or a story. One of the things, or 2 things, actually I do have one other thing to say. Try to do something that you're passionate about. Try to find something you really like. If you like it and you're excited about it, the success will be easier to come by. And whether that's in the transportation industry or any other industry, a lot of people say they want to be lawyers or doctors because lawyers and doctors make a lot of money. I unfortunately know a lot of miserable lawyers and a lot of miserable doctors. And so I wouldn't encourage you to do that because it's hard to be high potential talent if you're not really vested in what you do. Mm-hmm. It's not very different from music. It's not very different from sports. Someone said this is not a game, or it's like a war, if you will. It's not a play thing. And so do something you're passionate about, you're likely to be more successful. I like to call high potential people go-to people. The people I go to when something's really hard and they're not gonna abandon it, or they're not gonna wanna not get called after 5 o'clock, or they're not gonna look at me like I'm crazy because I called them on the weekend. Those are the people I want running something. And that doesn't mean in order to be an employee, you get fired if you don't do that. You can, but we're talking about high potential talent. And that's people who go beyond the call of duty, who get things done. Like Colonel Page had many of us show up on this panel, 10, 15 minutes, some of us, or ask things, because passionate, ready to go, step up to the plate and do what it takes to get done. Before I made partner at my law firm, we were in the middle of a multi-billion-dollar deal. I was pretty junior. I was a third-year associate. And the seventh-year associate who was up for partner had a very complicated part of this big deal. I was an M&A. I bought and sold companies. And she literally, about 2 days before we were going to sign, just said, "I can't do it," and literally shut down. And the partner looked at me and he said, "You've got to fix this." Now, I could have shut down too, and I thought about it. But instead, I was really excited about deals I wanted to learn, and I said, I'm going to do the best job I can. And literally, he didn't have time to check my work, so he just said, "You've got to get this done." And he had kind of a scared look on his face, so I got even more scared. And at the end of the day, I stayed up literally 36 hours. I've never done that before. I don't encourage anybody to do that. But at the end, he said, "Is this okay? Do you think it works?" And I said, "Well, sir, I did not land this plane smoothly. It did not land on a dime, but I got the jumbo jet out the air and safely onto the ground. You've got to be passionate. You've got to be the person that people think, if I give it to that person, the job's going to get done. It's going to get done well." Thank you.
I guess that's me.
It's you,
Okay,
Dr.
gotcha.
Ogletree. I'm sorry.
I'm going to just say a few words. I've learned a lot from being at this Comto conference, and the folks here have a lot to add and offer. And my views are very limited when you talk about high potential talent. I see it in places that people don't think you can find it. It's not the person who had the best GPA, the person who's the most active speaker in the class. It's usually people who have the ability to think and solve problems. And now's the time. This is a little bit different from what we're supposed to talk about, but I want to say a little bit about one of my first paid jobs. I worked at, should I say the name? A company that makes hamburgers and fries and shakes, right? I won't say the name of it, but that's where I worked. And what occurred to me is that I started thinking about it, and this was in high school. I said, you know what? Every single thing I can do can be replaced by a machine. Hamburgers, fries, shakes, all those things could be replaced by a machine. So I say this to say, be prepared that the thing you're thinking about, the thing your son or daughter is thinking about, may be taken over by technology. You don't need a person to do it. And to say that, why am I saying that? I realized that just with my cell phone. It's very, make calls, receive calls. It's terrific. And then I started getting these emails saying, "Hey, Tree." I said, "How does the cell phone know my name is Tree?" And said, "Tree, would you like to go somewhere?" All those kind of things that built in my phone. I didn't know that. But it tells me that when you talk about high potential talent, the talent is creating the sense that, wow, things can happen even without people, even without training, even without knowledge. They know all those things, and that was a frightening thing to know, a good thing to know, but a frightening thing to know how significant that was. And my sense is very clear. You have to keep growing and knowing as you move on, because you can be replaced in a minute. I don't want to be negative, but that's a reality in terms of what's going to happen. And sometimes you have to interrupt private conversations. When you're not part of that dialogue, when people are thinking about building that dynasty, being successful, making the business work, you have to be in that conversation. That means sometimes you may have to interrupt conversations to make sure that things are in a sense, you are learning from that. And the final thing that I think that makes a lot of sense is to think about supporting people who you think may not be successful, but may turn out to be successful. Every single year, every single year, I give scholarships to students of my high school that I went to 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. And why do I do that? Because I'm gifted, and I think that I could not have made it if they were not around me, supporting me. I spent a lot training and thinking about what that means. And I don't give it to the A student. I don't give it to the smartest student, because they're going to get scholarships. They're going to get internships. They're going to get the opportunity to succeed. I give it to people who has the potential, I think, but just need a little nudge to make sure that they're going to be successful and make sure that that's going to happen. And I think that means that a lot of the people that I'm talking about are people, or if you have to put them on a chart, they're in the lower half. They're the 50% below and all the way down to 10%. Those are the people who need help, because they are paying attention, they are learning slowly, but they're learning. And I think that makes a big difference. And so my sense is that you have to give to those who are working their way up and making things happen. And does it pay off? It does. And one final example. The example is shocking to me. This is a person that I supported in high school to get a scholarship from a family that did not have the regular arrangements. The mother couldn't read. The father had to work during the night. The child never saw anybody. That person stood out to me as that's the person I need to help. That person is going to make a difference, because he's going to say, I've made it, and I want to make sure that I want to lift somebody else up. So I think I saw that potential, and it wasn't the brightest student, it wasn't the smartest student, it wasn't the A student, but it was the most gifted student who said, I'm not finished yet. I'm still working on making things happen. And if you have some hope in me, then that's going to happen. And one of those students that I supported in high school surprised me years later, because he was taking one of my classes here at Harvard Law School. He said, Professor, I know this is going to be a surprise to you, but I got your scholarship when I was in high school. I went to college, and now I'm taking your class. I'm a second-year student at Harvard Law School. It just overwhelmed me to hear that, right? And so understanding the high potential talent means looking below the bar, looking at people who have a whole lot of talent and may not have the A average, but may have the heart to be successful, and those people have an amazing potential benefit, and I think we need to support them as well. Thank you.
I want to thank you all for your thoughts on this topic, and for those of you who are in the audience and thinking about your career pathways. What you saw and see and are seeing here is that there are many pathways to success. And so while we get ready to take questions from the audience, I just wanted to sum up some of what I heard. One of the things I heard, particularly from this group, is that you need to know your brand. And if you don't know your brand, start working on it. So I'm going to suggest be an intrapreneur until you can be an entrepreneur. Understand your brand and grow it. And that's what we're hearing from these people here. We hear passion and leadership is very important skills and tools for you to have. We heard from Terry, there's a difference between management and leadership, and I want you to understand those differences. Teamwork and collaboration. No one person can get the job done alone. You need teamwork and collaboration. Communication, especially the willingness to listen. That's a special skill. Being able to hear what someone has to say, the words that are said, and also what's not said. There's meaning in between the silence, too. You need to listen to what's not said as well. We hear from Dr. Gannon, be genuinely curious about ideas. Not only just your ideas, but be curious about people. We hear all along the panel that leaders are learners, and in those conversations, in the curious conversations that you have, there's definitely nuggets of learning for you. We hear from Mr. Ford, persistence, innovation, problem solvers is important. Being persistent, understanding that failure is a part of success. Failure is actually where you learn. And so being persistent through the failures is what's going to create your success. Genuine and innovative problem solvers. Going above and beyond. You may ask to give A, B, and C, but if you deliver D, E, and F along with A, B, and C, that's going to make you an innovative problem solver. We hear the theme of giving back all along, and we'll talk about that in the end. Dr. Scott talked to us about having a plan. And do you have a plan that is flexible and ready to go at any moment in time? If you don't have a plan, I suggest that you start to make one. When you leave this session over the next few days, to have a plan for your future, know what that roadmap is. And this I thought was really important, knowing the difference between mentoring, coaching, and sponsoring. You need all three of those in your life. If you don't know the difference, make sure that you stop some of us here and talk about it, because it's really a difference between all three. And lots of people get that confused and think that they have a mentor. But if you don't have a sponsor in your life, a business sponsor, I'd suggest that you look in this conference, look over this conference, because you have many people who can be your sponsors. It's very important to have a sponsor. It's very important to have all three. Thank you for that. Critical. Be vested in what you do is what we hear from Mr. Cole. He's had a tremendous career, but one thing you can hear is that he's passionate and he's vested in what he does, and he talks to you about being the same thing, vested in what you do. And then we've heard a whole lot from Dr. Ogletree, but be the go-to person as well. I know in the world of work, there are people who are named leaders, and then those are the real guys. The real guys are the people who know everything and can do everything. You don't necessarily have to be a title, have to have a title to do that. The ability to think and solve problems is really critical as well. We also heard, what is your invaluable differentiator? We hear that technology is taking over jobs, and if we can imagine the new world of work, especially in the transportation industry, we can expect that we'll see more technology that's taking over jobs. So what is your invaluable differentiator that will be sustainable over the course of change in transportation? And if you don't have one, start to think about that, what that is now. We heard that leaders are learners. I know that I am. I'm sitting here listening to this panel and learning more and more about how we can structure our Leadership Academy to be more focused on the direction that will shorten your trajectory to success. And so, never stop learning. Dr. Gannon said, be curious all the time, and I'm always curious in any discussion we have. Going above and beyond, having an unwavering integrity and value about the work that you do. That may mean managing headwinds at times. That may mean going in unfamiliar territory at times. And that may mean being lonely at times as well. But standing in your unwavering integrity and values is really going to make you have a differential career as well. And I can't say it enough, this panel can't say it enough, giving back is the most important part of your career. And that starts now, as a student, in school, giving back. There's a young person who needs your help right now. And what you'll find is that you will get many rewards for reaching out and helping someone along the way as well. You'll learn many, many skills in being a teacher to someone who's younger than you. And just a word on that, we're in the world where we can have reverse mentorship now. There's lots of things that I don't know and can learn from a younger generation and a younger emerging population. And so this whole thought of mentorship is really shifting now, where it's not just older people mentoring younger people, but it's younger people mentoring older people as well, and taking the best of both worlds and coming out with a better product. So understand that the give and take in a relationship, in a mentoring relationship, is not just one that gives, but it's where it's both received. So as you think about the skills and competencies you need to have a successful career, the education that you need going forward, we know that you're going to get that in school. We have no doubt about that. You've all chosen great schools to go to, and the technical competencies that you're going to learn is going to sustain you. What we're talking about are the intangible competencies. It's what your mama didn't teach you at home, or what she did teach you, and you have forgotten to do. Those are the things that are going to sustain you in organizations and really help you to be successful. And so that's what I've learned. That's what I heard from this panel up here this morning, and I thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I know I'll use that to help us shape how we look at our curriculum for the students going forward. So now it's your turn. We've heard a lot this morning from this group. They've shared with you their pathways to success, and I'm sure you have some questions, some curiosity that you have, and you want to learn a little bit more. So we have Sophie, you have a microphone. Anyone who have a question for anyone? Oh, we have 2 microphones here. Thank you.
I have one right here.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank you for your time and for listening to us and talking to us.
1 second, honey. Who are you?
My name is Eric Jimenez. I'm majoring in civil engineering at San Francisco State. And my question would be, like, would you have any advice for a almost graduating senior like me, trying to get a career in the transportation industry? So, for example, like, would it be more valuable to go for my master's degree right after my bachelor's, or try to get the PE license? Or another example would be trying to get a job at a private firm directly, or start my work experience at in the public sector. So what would be like a good career path? Just some advice. I would appreciate it.
I'll kick it off. One of the things that I would do is I would try to get, this is my opinion, I would try to get a job for somebody who will pay for your master's. Because that's what I did. I literally got a job at MCI back in the day, and they paid for my master's. And so, because one of the things I look for somebody who has the education and the experience. If you only have the education without the experience, you're going to find that you expect to be a little higher, and somebody's going to come in with a little less education, but they have practical knowledge. So by combining those things, you'll find your personal brand, to use your term, just has a higher value.
That's excellent. Maybe I could add to that a little bit. I just had this question last week from one of our interns, and I think that's a great point. It's hard to decide what it is you want to do next year, 5 years. Always keep your options open. Always look at opportunities for not only what they are in front of you, but what the future could bring. So to that point, your education is important, but you will continue to learn. You're not, I hate to tell you, you're not done with education, no matter when you stop. This is about, the career you enter is about lifelong learning. And so don't think you necessarily have to reach these steps, because you're going to be continuing to learn the rest of your life. It's just dependent upon what it is and when it is. And so I would agree that do as much as you can to get your undergraduate education. If there's somebody who can help you with a graduate education, even better. It provides you that many more doors that will open for you. Relative to licensure, I can't tell you how important that is.
Yes.
Because even though
Great.
you may not end up being in a position where you actually need it, it's another learning experience, and it provides you that many more options down the line for you to look into alternate career paths. So I think it's very important. In fact, a lot of schools now in the engineering side require you to take some of the examinations. They don't require you to pass them, but they want you to take the examinations, the fundamentals examinations, so that you start preparing yourself for that. Again, just keep your options open.
Hello, I'm Isaiah Black. I'm currently transferring University of Maryland College Park from Marshall. I guess that's part of my question. What I don't know. Everybody doesn't have to answer it, but
It's a CEO right there.
not getting too deep into it, but what was that one thing or that one person, or was it like a conference or anything that, you know, made you decide that I have to do this, or I have to, you know, go into this career, or, you know, I have to make it? Like, what was it that gave you that drive to be as successful as you all are today?
Kick it off.
Go ahead.
I'll start.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I think that understanding, so I was a teacher, that was a wonderful position, that was a wonderful career and a wonderful job. But once I understood how important transportation is to the lives of my neighbors and my friends and my grandmother and the people in a community, it really became the fabric of a community. I realized transportation was for me. So I think that was the moment to understand how important this industry is.
Well, in terms of transportation, I mean, I said it this morning, well, for those, I really believe that I've been in the community building business for, not even business, it's a passion, a purpose. So I can't even tell you where the separation, there isn't a separation between Bev and what I do. It's honestly, so that's a part about passion, okay? The part about, the whole piece in terms of education, I'm telling you the honest to God's truth, my parents, and I think about it now, I don't even know how they knew that we were we were little snot-nosed kids out there in Cedar Avenue in Cleveland, all that kind of stuff. There were 3 of us at the same time, but oh my God, standing on the, you're gonna get a good education, you're gonna get a good education, so just always trying, it was just this thing, you're gonna try to do the best that you can, and that did not mean that you had to always have an A, but you had to give it the best that you could, okay? And so I was just absolutely blessed to have, to just have a great family, which was an extended family, that kept emphasizing you got to give it your best. So that was a blessing. Yeah.
Mine is short, and it's not, unfortunately, feel good. I was not going to share it, but everyone was quiet, so I figured I'd share it. I never knew how poor we were growing up. I had no idea. I really had no idea. And so it was a happy world. My mom passed away when I was 14. And then I realized how poor we were because she was stretching all the dollars and paying all the bills. And my father made it to the 3rd grade, so he couldn't balance a paycheck. He at 14, he would come home and give me his check. And I started to wonder how the heck you add up what you owe, and then you add up what you got. And then it dawned on me, the gas would get turned off or something like that, and we just turn on the stove and heat the house. That didn't seem strange at all to a kid. No. But when I had to make those decisions, it became hard. And then what started to drive me is I've got to do what I love, but it's got to be grounded in practicality, and it's got to pay the bills. I never dreamed I'd be a partner at a law firm or anything, but the connection between I got to go to work, show up on time so I don't get fired, became my passion. And I loved to play Monopoly as a kid. We grew up Kojic, so you weren't supposed to roll the dice. So we would, when that car came down the street, the Monopoly board would go flying off. I shouldn't be telling all this, but
It's on camera, right?
So this is all on it's being filmed. But so I just figured I'd be real with you guys. And so from Monopoly, I loved buying and selling. And then I wanted to have a grocery store, a liquor store. That's what all the people in my neighborhood had the money, were the grocery stores, the liquor stores, and the churches. And so I wanted this is just the truth. And I went to school for finance because I wanted to own a business. I went into M&A law because law was very exciting to me. And if you're not going to be the guy who's actually buying and selling it, I thought it was phenomenally exciting to be the lawyer to represent the guy who's doing it. And I got to wheel and deal. And so life has been great. I shifted and I did M&A for 15 years. And this just ties, and I'm going to wrap up. It ties to someone else who said, be open to opportunities. Because I was having a great life being an M&A partner in New York when I got a call from the Obama administration saying, would you like to come work in government? And I had to go through a real self-analysis and self-reflection as to whether I wanted to do that. And it has been the highlight of my career. The highlight of my career. So be open to changes and doing different things. Your passion may move and ebb as you go through life.
Do we have another question? And then I want to shift a little bit before we end. Go.
Okay. Oh, this is on. Hi, thank you guys again. My name is Akila. I'm a DC chapter intern. My question's a bit twofold about mentorship. That's a passion of one of my passions. So I guess my first part is, how did you sort of latch on to your mentors? Was it a happenstance encounter? Was there somebody who you pointed out of a crowd or a conference that you said, I needed to meet them? And then sort of what part of your journey did you find them, I guess, I don't want to say useful, but what point did they really speak to you and sort of become your mentor?
Great question.
I think I'll mention two mentors. One, Colonel Page, and I'll tell you that story in a second. But the first one was even before we met. When I first started in corporate America, before I started my company, I was at MCI. There was an African-American vice president and it was very few at that time that were African-American vice presidents. So my second day there, I walked into his office and said, how did you get to where you are today? So then he asked me, I'm sorry, who are you? And now notice, I'm like 6 levels down in a cube, sharing a cube. This is a senior vice president in a Fortune 500 company. So he said, I gotta sit down and talk to you if you're bold enough just to walk into my office and ask me how I got my job. And so we became great friends. He went on to actually head on Nextel. He ran XM. He ran for Nate Davis, if you guys know Nate Davis. And literally, he told me one thing that stuck with me. And so the young people, you know, I told you take notes, right? So he told me, I need you to be willing. I need you to do things that need to be done, but other people are not willing to do. And that stuck with me to this day. And he said that's how he got to where he was, given he was African American vice president at a Fortune 500 company at that time where there were none. And he was open to, so I sort of followed him around for a long time like a puppy to learn those things I needed to learn. And Colonel Page, very much, we met each other at a small business conference in the Virgin Islands. And he was someone, I saw these people following him around everywhere he went. And I was like, why are they following this dude everywhere he goes? And he, for whatever reason, felt sorry for me and decided that he should talk to me. And literally, he asked me for some things very early. We were in a little small office that might have one window facing an alley. And we sat there and we talked about helping kids. And once he found out that I had something to offer him in my passion, he had always opened up a door. So I think you have to be bold. And I think you have to offer, I think somebody mentioned that earlier, you have to offer your mentor something, which is yourself. Mm-hmm. And if that person's able to sort of take that on, then you found the right one. If it's not, it's okay to say, let me look for the next one.
Hey, I had a question I wanted to ask. My name is Benjamin Allen, and I'm a returning city intern working at AECOM as a transportation planner. My question was, how would one go about developing persistence if they don't already see it in themselves?
Good question.
Wow.
Get knocked down.
That's when you know you have a great question.
I want somebody, Comto, answer it. Comto people talk about it.
When
I would say that's a great question. I would say focus on mentors and people who have the types of skills that you would like to acquire that you don't have, and try to have them show you a way. It's hard to do things on your own sometimes, but I would say find a mentor and say, I really want to develop a certain thing, whether it's persistence or whatever it is you don't think you have, and see if there's someone who can help you along the way. That's one of the incredible roles mentors play.
Right. The other thing I would suggest to you is pick something that you have shied away from. Mm-hmm. Because you just didn't think you could. I'm gonna tell you the honest God's truth. I used to dance, honey. I call it dancing. Which I can tell you about Miss Papusik in statistics now, okay? In calculus, Miss LaFrance said it'll be playing in all your neighborhood schools come September. And I said, I'll be doggone, okay? So all I'm saying is that, so there were areas where I wasn't, up to a point, I can tell you all the stuff about Jill, up to a point, I always wanted to be the kid that was #1 with the flashcards and all that. And I don't know what this metamorphosis that started happening when I was like about the 9th grade or whatever, all the 9th, 10th grade, math was starting to be one of these whatever. I want to tell you, I wrestled it down. I just kept on. I would make myself get in those classes and all that, because I tell you what, because I was beginning to lose confidence in myself, okay? And so it was one of those, I said, because I was always gets A's, okay? And I was like, and I said, I'm just not going to let this happen. And I really had to get myself out of my comfort zone because I was doubting myself and all of that. And I just say, when you have whatever that something is, and we all have them, just push yourself some more in those areas for yourself, because you don't want anything to take you out that you could have control over. Okay?
One more thing I'll add. No one can do it like Dr. Scott, I tell you. No one. One more thing I'll add about persistence is that you have to critically evaluate your failures. Critically evaluate your failures and then make a plan to attack those and address those. If you always critically evaluate that, you'll always have another plan to go back and try again. So I'd add to that is a critical evaluation of failures. We have another question?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, future leaders in transportation industry. My name is Ryan Daniel. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of St. Cloud Metrobus. I don't have a question, but I have a story that I'm going to shed some light on about. Smile for the camera.
You better pose and take mid-question.
Did he pause to take a picture?
Go.
I just want to share my story briefly for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm 36 years old. I've been in transportation industry for 16 years. I started out in high school, right after high school, driving a bus in New York City. At that time, I said to myself, if I could drive a bus at 19 years old in New York City Transit in the streets of Times Square, then transportation is for me. I continued to go to school. I went to York College, got my bachelor's degree, went to Dowling College, got my master's degree. But throughout my education, I grabbed a mentor, I grabbed a coach. Those mentors and those coaches are very important people in your lives. You ask the questions, how do you do this? How do you do that? I mean, I did an internship too as well throughout my education for both my bachelor's and my master's. But then when I left New York City, I decided, okay, well, I would like to be that CEO, or I'd like to be that director of operation department, but if I stay here, I may have to work here 15 years, I may have to work here 30 years to even have an opportunity to move up. So what I did, I moved out. I went to Central Ohio Transit Authority, and then I worked there for 2 years as a manager of training manager of operations. And then I said, okay, well, I could stay here maybe 6 years, or I could stay here 7 years, but I was persistent. I didn't want to stay, I didn't want to settle. I wanted to get that experience. I wanted to move. I wanted to work hard. So then I left there and I went to Washington, D.C., and I worked at WMATA for 4 years as a manager of bus operations. So I went from a smaller division in Ohio to a bigger division in D.C., and I stayed there for 4 years. And then I met a guy who I think changed my life and prepared me for the position that I'm in now. His name is Mr. Carter. He's been in transportation now for 50 years. He just retired from WMATA. Stayed at one location, 49 and a half years, if you want to be exact. But when we met, he took me under his wing, and he taught me everything he knew from day one. When WMATA wasn't even WMATA, it was called DC Metro or something like that. He worked there before the rail even existed, and he taught me everything I needed to know about transportation. My message that I have for you guys: find that mentor, find that coach, ask those questions, be persistent. I went on numerous interviews before I was selected to be CEO of St. Cloud Metrobus, and I got discouraged. And I wasn't even interviewing for CEO positions. I was interviewing for director positions, senior level positions. 15, 20 interviews. I could name all the transit systems I had to interview with. I was making it to the top 3, top 2, but never was selected. I thought something was wrong with me. But no, persistence, do not get discouraged. Because the job you may not want is a job that you might end up with, and you're going to fall in love with it, and that's what I'm doing right now in St. Cloud, Minnesota. So guys, be persistent and don't get discouraged.
Hello, my name is Tammy Adeniji. I'm the Comto City intern for the Philadelphia chapter. My question was just that, as successful as you all are, I'm sure you face challenges in transportation and education and in your profession generally. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you manage to overcome them? And what advice would you give to young leaders like ourselves?
I guess a couple things I can think of. First of all, you're challenged every day. Life isn't unicorns and rainbows, and you always are faced with challenges. And I think in addition to persistence, perseverance, and having confidence in yourself, and that you know you're doing the right thing. And some of the biggest challenges I've had in the past is none of my family, I didn't grow up in a community that really knew much about engineering, and so I had to learn a lot of things myself. But again, because of the passion and the perseverance I had, I was willing to learn. I was willing to learn from my mistakes. I never took myself too seriously. I knew I was going to have some bumps along the way, and you just recognize you always will. But again, getting back to what's being said, whether you look at it as a mentor, a coach, have a champion, have somebody that you can depend on to get some help, because you're not able to address everything that comes forward. It's a community. Everybody is working together. So I guess my biggest recommendation is don't think you have to take everything on yourself. This is about working with others and having other people help you. It's going to happen not only at certain career points, but it's going to happen a lot more than you think.
Right. And I think I want to add something on this one, is to really know yourself, okay? And what for you, so not one, there will always be change, okay? And I happen to be a startup change, fix-up transition manager. My typical lifespan in organizations is about 5 years. Every one of them I go to is one of those, you either gonna start it up, you're going to take the hill, there's a hill that's gonna hit, so it's always that, okay? And with that comes so a centeredness in being as comfortable as you can be with who you are, recognizing that I always say there are no God juniors, so that doesn't mean recognizing who you are means that you're perfect by any stretch of the imagination, okay? But a centeredness and a comfort with who you are, and I tell people at the end of the day that if you will do you and be authentic and be value-centered, then quite candidly, it'll be all right, okay? And so that, don't get all into the hype with the press and the this and that. I'm not suggesting that you should go out trying to be no kamikaze pilot or any of that, because that's stupid, okay? But at the same time, don't let those kinds of things define you for yourself. Be you, do you, be valued-centered, and I think it comes out, it always comes out in the end.
I'll add one thing to it, by the way. This is actually my first Comto conference, and I'm ecstatic to see, particularly minority folks helping each other. Because if you really want to know my biggest obstacle, sometimes it's the overcoming a perception of who I am as a black man. And you know, Jim knows if he puts me up here, I tell the truth. Because that has been the biggest obstacle, being a business owner. In many cases, you're overcoming a perception that you're not good enough to provide the services as my counterparts. And that sometimes that perception, for the majority of the time, is also coming from somebody who may look like me. And so I am glad to see an organization like Comto not saying, you know what, we understand that we're looking for the best and we see the best in you. But that has been over starting this company that we have over the 15 years, and you have to continue to prove yourself. Arthur Ashe said being black sometimes is like having a part-time job. And I understand that. I don't use it as an excuse. I just understand when I walk into a room, somebody has a perception that I may have to overcome. That is not a chip on my shoulder. I told the kids yesterday, that is why I told you when I walk into a room, in my own mind I hear applause, because in somebody else's mind they don't. So I have to, hypnotize myself to say that. Because I don't care about what you think. I'm coming to make a difference in who you are. So we have to overcome maybe our own self-perceptions and negative perceptions of each other, and organizations and what we're doing today help that.
Excellent. I thank you. I want to be mindful of our time. We have about 10 minutes left. I know we have one more question here? We have two more questions. But before we go to those two questions, I'll abandon my second plan. See, a good leader is flexible, can abandon their plan. I just want to be mindful that I know there are many opportunities for you to go to college, but some of you have chosen trade school. I had the opportunity of going to a wonderful graduation a couple of weeks ago in my hometown of the Bronx. Woo, woo. Hands up. Bronx Design and Construction Academy. I think we have several of the graduates here, but what I was so impressed by is that they had a choice, and they still, hey, there they go, from the Bronx. Did I say the Bronx? Did I say the Bronx where the Yankees are? But we won't talk about the game yesterday. Sorry. Anyway, I had the opportunity of going to their graduation, and what I was so impressed by is that these young people have a choice. They graduated with a Regents degree, I believe, and also a trade certificate. And so now they have the flexibility of going to become an entrepreneur if they want to, or to continue on through college. So I just want to be mindful, and we have two other gentlemen here from a trade school here in DC. Met you this morning. You're not here. Madison, yes.
Madison High School.
Yes, yes. So no, as we said, there are many pathways to success. Many of you will choose the college pathway, but some of you have chosen the trade pathway, and both of those are just as valuable. So big ups to you guys from BCDA. Congratulations for your hard work, and thanks for coming here. So as we continue to talk, I just wanted to remind everyone we have a mix of people too in the room, and all can be successful in the road that they choose. Gabrielle.
Thank you, and thank you to all the panelists here. You know, a lot of the conversation we had is really speaking, the gentleman who was speaking earlier, it's kind of a transition. We're talking a lot about what the students should, could, need to do to be successful, but many of you who are on the panel, especially Dr. Beverly, when you were in positions of leadership, you made policies, processes, procedures that allowed for inclusion of young people who are trying to make it through our organizations. And I think we have a responsibility to look wherever we are and say, are doors open? Are we making room? Are we open to cultural differences and understanding the experiences that our young African American and Latino young brothers and sisters have as they come through our organizations, whether it's education, whether it's corporate America, whether it's public sector, and are we creating an environment for them to be successful? And so I think that's a conversation too that I think is important as we try to break down the strongholds of institutional racism and sexism and other things that happen that keep our young people from being successful. I think that's a really good conversation that maybe all of us can engage in. What can we do to make these young people? It's so impressive to see them get up and come and introduce themselves and really stand up and stand in the gap for what they want. And we have to be open and ready to accept that. So,
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Those are really thoughtful comments, and I believe that our additional sessions this afternoon will continue the discussion about race and race in America and in transportation companies in particular. I am mindful that we have about 5 more minutes. I do have one gentleman with the last question, and then we're going to wrap up, Colonel. He's been patiently waiting. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jamari Taylor. I'm a city intern and scholarship recipient out of Detroit, Michigan. The one question I would like to ask is, what are some mistakes leaders often make?
Good question.
We don't have time for that question. How about one of the biggest mistakes you've ever made as a leader?
You first.
School teacher has the answer.
Yeah, you got
School teacher has the answer. I'm not sure if your question wasn't what was the biggest mistake I have made, was it? Was that the question? Yeah. What is
Leaders.
I think that we often get too judgmental, that we think as leaders we have the right idea, and that's the only way to go, and we don't stop to ask other people's opinion. That would be one.
Yeah, I think following on that, as I said earlier, leadership is about building others. And I think if I look back at my mistakes or I've seen other mistakes, it's when those leaders put themselves in front of those people they represent.
Right.
I would say knowing when to tap out. Sometimes leaders get so persistent in where they want to do, they need to learn that, you know what, I got to change. Right. And I got to tap out and say, you know, I need to move on.
And I'll say a ditto on that. I always tell people you need to try to define your own timing to the extent that you can. But the other thing that I will tell you about leaders is that is blind spots. Blind spots, okay? I got a whole lot of Bev. I don't need to have a whole more lot of Bev around. I got plenty of Bev for Bev, okay? So what I need to do is to be comfortable enough to surround myself with people who will add for me those perspectives that do not necessarily come naturally to me, and then to have the sense to listen. Okay, so that it's in that, so that inclusiveness, diversity, all of that is absolutely critical for me.
Well,
I was going to say a couple of things to sort of conclude this. This has been a very helpful panel. I think that, and I want to be clear, all the people in Comto can be just as good as we are, or even better, because they know the experiences. That's going to be very helpful. And it made me think about, you know, leadership and all those things. And I was thinking about a teacher I had my first year of law school here at Harvard Law School. And his name was Professor Katz. He's passed away now. And I did very well in his class in criminal law, and torts, actually. Sorry, Professor Katz, torts. But you know what's amazing is that I remember him every single moment. He was very active as a teacher. I saw him here. He was on the emeritus faculty member. He still stuck around. He passed away. And I remember he called me the name. He called me Charlie. I'm not a Charlie. And my last name was Oglethorpe. I'm not an Oglethorpe. But you know what? He had so much respect. How did I have to tell him, Professor Katz, my name is Ogletree, not Oglethorpe? It stayed with me, and that makes a big difference. He's a great mentor. He was a great mentor. And that means that we have to accept people as they are, make sure that we are engaging with people, and make sure that, you know, we are lifting as we climb. And I always think about him, and all my classes are that same way, thinking about what did you learn from somebody outside the classroom. And it's the judgment, the idea of being fair, the idea of being innovative, the idea of trying to make sure that people are part of the class. Everybody should be treated the same. And that's why Professor Katz made such a big difference to me. And right now, you can call me Charlie Oglethorpe if you like, because I'm going to keep that name as long as I live, because somebody thought Charlie Oglethorpe was a smart guy, made a difference in his life, and he made an amazing difference in my life.
Excellent. Well, I really sincerely want to thank all of you for sharing with us, and I'd like to invite Shirley DeLibero up to give our closing remarks. Shirley actually challenged me a while ago to help move us from good to great with our Leadership Institute, and this is a part of us gaining our information so that we can move from good to great, and I just appreciate the challenge, and I promise to live up to it. Shirley.
I want to thank all the panel. Let's give them a round of applause. This is actually awesome. Are you trying to tell me something, Colonel Page?
Ma'am, we have two people that I'd like to have you introduce, Stephanie Jones and Peter.
Okay. Oh, my buddy. It's so great to see you. And congratulations, a big shot now. Few words from Mr. Rogoff.
Come on up here, Stephanie. Good afternoon, Comto. I'm really thrilled to be here, in part because it's a great time not to be in Washington, D.C. And it's not just because of the weather. Colonel Page asked me to come up and say a few words about our relationship with the city intern program. I think, as many of you know, we have really built on a record of success with the city interns, and it is sort of writ small what our entire industry needs to do writ large in terms of bringing young people in, giving them a foothold, giving them relationships, and giving them the training that they're going to need. I mean, we're going to talk about this, I think, on the next panel, but we have extraordinary workforce needs coming in the transportation industry just in the next decade, never mind the decades after that. And the city intern program has been a hugely successful effort. One, you know, when I was the federal transit administrator during the first term, Julie Cunningham came and had to come and try to cajole this money every year. And about the second year I was there, I just didn't understand why we were doing this kind of on a one-off annual basis. And after we sort of established some rules of the road and got it solidly budgeted into our program, we just made it a recurring annual effort. And it has taken away a lot of the uncertainty. It has allowed us to recruit students early, to give students the knowledge that if it's, you know, the opportunity isn't there this summer, it's going to be there next summer. We've been able to know that we're not only taking these interns and putting them in places within DOT, but we've been able to house them in places like the transit agencies that we serve. I know a number have served at MARTA, at Metra, and a lot of our regional offices around the country. Hugely successful. I will say this, I also got a great pass. When Anthony Fox became our secretary and started redirecting the ship in his direction, one of the things he challenged us all to do at the department was to create an avenue for mentorship for young people. And I was already done because I had locked down the city internship program. So it was really great. Thanks. Let me introduce Stephanie Jones. Stephanie Jones is our Deputy Chief of Staff at the department. And importantly, she is really riding point on the Secretary's Ladders of Opportunity initiative, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But for those of you who haven't met or worked with Stephanie before, please make the opportunity to introduce yourself now and hear a few words from her right now. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Comto. I don't have much to add to what Peter said. Peter he's very modest, but he has been a real workhorse on this issue for us and has been doing a lot of the work that that everyone doesn't see, but is helping to do one of the things that the Secretary feels very strongly about, and that's to institutionalize ladders and the ladders approach into the organization. And one of the things that our mentorship programs do that's, I think, very critical is it makes sure that a lot of this work, a lot of this effort, a lot of the commitment continues long after we're not at the department anymore. It's part of how the department operates. And then these young people can go out into the transportation fields and really make a difference. One of the things that I always try to think about whenever we're figuring out priorities is this something that's going to matter in 5 years? Is this something that's going to have an impact in 5 or 10 years? And mentorship programs like this really answer that question very positively. And so we are very happy to be committed to it, very happy about the work that we're doing. You'll hear from Peter on the next panel, who will be talking a lot more about ladders of opportunity and what we're doing at the department. And you'll also hear from Secretary Fox on Monday. We're very excited that he'll be here. But in the meantime, we're looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. I'm looking forward to talking with as many of you as possible, and really excited about all the work we're going to be doing together on ladders of opportunity. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And all of you interns out there really need to give Peter Rogoff a round of applause because it was his brainchild. So thank you. I said to him when I was back there talking to him, look out there, aren't you proud of what you've done? So thank you, Peter, for all you've done. I do want to, as the executive director of CLI, the Comto Leadership Institute, I want to thank all of you, and several of you are on the advisory board. We need your help. We're trying to plan the curriculum and how we can really make a difference for the youth, and to really make sure we're putting programs together that are going to help them get to the sea level someday. So I would appreciate any input you have, things that let me know, Tracy know, or Mayoshi know, because we really want to make this. This was Julie's brainchild and mine, and you know, I've been in this industry a long time. Before I go, I want to see this really, really make a difference. So thank you all, and I'd appreciate all of your input. Thank you.